Have you heard the news?
Have you heard the news, Gadsy?
No.
The Australian minimum wage has gone up to $23.23 an hour.
Oh, wow. So we'll probably be earning like an eighth of that today?
Nah. If you're like me and Gadsy, you've probably been desperately poor at some point in your life and wondered, Jesus, instead of going to my crippling job that I absolutely hate and I never want to go back there again because I'm going to probably strangle my boss with the coffee pot, you wouldn't really be strangling, you'd kind of be just drowning him. We digress. And thought, hey, I could just kick this all in and go live on the creek and probably earn minimum wage. Well, that's what I'm going to find out over the next week. I got 38 hours of digging ahead of me. This guy's got 38 hours of pumping.
Calluses on the hands.
On your pump hand?
Yeah, my pump hand. The other one's got blisters.
Which one's hairy?
Both palms are hairy. And I'm going blind as well.
Every single week on Vo-Gus Prospecting, I get asked the question, how much money do you make from the gold? And it's a legitimate question. That's what we're doing. That's part of the excitement of coming out and gold prospecting, is knowing that you're digging actual money up out of the creek.
Word talking, I can English.
Sometimes on my show, you're going to see us get really good takes of gold using something like a gold pan, maybe a high bank, or even a metal detector. But the good is not the average. More often than not, we're coming out with one of these just to explore for gold, not to mine it. Gadsy's making fun of me for saying the good is not the average, but what I mean by that is when you get really good days, they fall into like the top end of the bell curve when it comes to days in the creek. More often than not, you'll dig up like a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Dunning-Kruger thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pavlov's dog.
Yeah.
Gold prospectors come to the creek, get hairy palms.
Yeah, you start drooling when they get gold.
Depending on where you are in the world, your gold purity is going to change. In this area in Australia, the gold averages between 97 and 98% pure. It's some of the most pure gold in the world, which means it's really close to 24 karat, which means we get maximum dollar for our gold. A lot of other places in the world you'll get less purity, but you might get more quantity, so it kind of balances out. I'm doing that and I keep glancing down because look, Gadsy, I found a crystal.
What?
Hey, look, it was just sitting there while I was doing my monologue.
Oh my god, that's super clear.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh. Normally we have to work really hard to find crystals like that, but apparently I can just come to the creek and do a voiceover and we're good. Get in the bucket. My goal could not be more simple. Full-time work in Australia is considered to be 38 hours. If you are given 38 hours worth of paid work, that is a full-time job. A lot of people work a lot more than that, but that's the baseline minimum, and they're going to get paid a minimum of $23.23 every hour that they work. I could absolutely come out here with, you know, a high banker, a sluice box, all sorts of fancy gold prospecting equipment to make this easier, but I'm going to limit myself to pans and a basic hand dredge, which is what Gadsy's using. The time is exactly 12:52 and Gadsy's found no gold. And given that now it's 12:53, we're going to start work, see how much gold we get for our first couple of hours, and then we're going to add 38 more. Moo! Dig it in the creek, gonna fill up my turtle shell full of gold and hope and dreams. Ooh! Sometimes I dig holes and they're full of water. For you see, kind people of YouTube land, after 8 years of people telling me I should do this, I have a chair. Something like 70% of my audience is American, so I'm going to have to explain how heavy this pan is in freedom units. This weighs about like 1,500 Big Macs. And for the King's English speaking people, I keep forgetting that she's passed. They probably weigh about 20 kilos when they're full of dirt. And I was recently told by a commenter on my channel that if I was a real man, this is not a shovel. This pan would only take 3 shovels, and I don't really understand how being a real man changes the capacity of things. So if you understand how being a real man changes the capacity of things, let me know in the comments.
Pan it like a real man.
I don't know how. go. Back to the ether. Potato pans like this are used right around the world as the primary gold pan. It's really only Western countries that use flat bottom pans like you'd see Gadsy and I use most of the time. And these are normally made out of wood, but in this case we've got some liquid dinosaur. Gadsy just said, isn't it reconstituted dinosaur? Not really, it's more like sweetened condensed dinosaur. Now where I am on Reedy Creek, the gold is extremely fine, and we were getting a lot of really good gold here a little while ago, but it's somewhat dried up in terms of its spec count. I just want to open up a little bit of ground for the first couple of hours of this challenge to see if there isn't something good. Otherwise we'll move on to other creeks and other places for the rest. They're tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces of gold. Super fine gold and just not a lot of it, which is surprising because there was a lot of gold in this area not too long ago. I am going to have to do a lot better than that if I want to make $23 an hour. Very next pan, we've got pretty much exactly the same result. Really fine, fine gold. Super fine gold and just not a lot of it. Sometimes this is just what happens. Prospecting is what we do probably 80% of the time. The other 20% is when we do find something that's above average that we get to work, and that's what you're putting all your eggs in. That basket is prospecting. You need to go out and look for it. Gotta clear some of the sandy overburden off because I know there's clay down the bottom, and if I can get it, then I'll actually know if it's worth digging in this spot. Alright, that feels real solid. Yeah, a little bit of clay on the end of the shovel. Clay is good, it's like the sticky tape for gold in the creek. There's not terribly much of it, but it is there. I just want a little bit more than 10 specks. Certainly no guarantee, but maybe. We've got a nice piece of tourmaline. Yeah, the spec count gets better lower. All right, that grey clay is where it's at. Put you on the director's chair. Come up close and look at my goodies. So, nice piece of tourmaline there. Tourmaline crystal. And a bunch of really fine micro stuff. Not heaps, but enough to go again. It's annoying because back in the day it was 600 or 700 specks a pan just up there. So getting 15 or 20 is a little bit ho-hum. Meanwhile, Sweatiest Pantsus. Oh!
Echoes of Bonanza City.
That is an echo. It's a very echoey echo, isn't it? It's a bit jading when you've come to a spot there. You were getting quarter gram a pan to get that.
Still something. I'm not complaining.
This is like the equivalent of seeing the guys at the train station look for mostly unsmoked cigarette butts on the ground.
Oh.
That's what that is.
Just looking for crumbs.
We're out here scabbing, Gadsy.
Yeah, scabbing for
We're
gold butts.
Gold goblins, we are. We've done some quick maths, which I know you guys love. We work out that I average about 120 pans a week. Sometimes that's more, sometimes that's less, but it works out to be about 120. Brother, that is a lot of pans. And when I work it out over the 8 years I've been doing this full time, that's 50,000 pans of dirt I've moved. Minimum, that's not including high banking, sluicing and buckets. One of those pans led me to here. And wouldn't you believe it? There's a decent sized flake in it. And good sized tin. We like tin around here because it shows you where the gold is. And while old man back up there does his thing, I'm going to process here and just hope that there's more of that down the bottom. That's not my bucket. Yeah! Get in the bucket. If I was going to use some form of freedom units, I would say there's an imperial shit ton of overburden here. And it's got a little bit of gold in it. So we're going to use an old prospector's trick. We've got really low grade gravel sitting on top, 1 to 5 specks a pan. If we throw that low-grade dirt. I know the differences between my waters and my dirts most of the time. So that one time I chugged mud. When we throw our low-grade dirt into it, oh my God, put your shovel down, Chris. When you throw that low-grade dirt into fast water, like I've got here in this channel, what's going to happen is over time, all of the lights are going to get stripped off. Most of your heavy, dense stuff will just be left here. And so you can reconcentrate the gold to be actually worth working at the end of the day. I feel like the first few hours of this challenge might be hours I'm going to have to catch up on, but we'll make do. This is the reality of it. Ah, yes, the director's chair. Very nice. You'd think these roots would be good, but they grow so fast they generally don't hold on to very much. Kind of use this rolling action to take the light stuff off with the potato pan when you get down the end, and there is some real coarse tin in that. That is a great sign. I mean, at the very least I'm going to go home and concentrate some of my pay dirt, so that's good. For simplifying seeing the gold, we're just going to drop it into a regular pan. We've got good tin, real good tin, and better sized pieces of gold. That's good. So that means, yeah, maybe. I'm fully not expecting to get $23 an hour every single hour that I work out here on the creek. I'm more expecting to get sort of very low wages for a long time, followed by a bonanza city that's going to make up for the rest. That's the theory. Time will tell. At least the black sand is staying really consistent. That is a good sign because it means heavy things have been accumulating in this area. Look how coarse that tin is. It's just whether or not there's going to be a pocket of good gold down there. Like, we're getting flakes and we're getting more than we were getting at the start. It's just we're not getting that real good quantity we're going to need to be able to make 23 bucks an hour. I'm going to risk it. My intention today was to open up this ground. Now I know there's good gold over there, but it's all the way down to the bedrock. There's a lot more overburden. Whereas over here, there's nowhere near as much overburden, but there's not as much gold. Although the tin is coarse and the flakes are coarse. And ultimately that leaves me in a conundrum. Do I chase good gold that's harder to access, which means it'll take me longer per pan to get? Or, given that I'm not allowed to use a sluice box, as in one that I buy, should I just dump it all in the river and concentrate it? And I think, yes. Most of our gold and black sand will be right in this area here. You will get some migration down here, but most of it will be there. And so I'm going to do it. I am just going to feed my river sluice and probably come out with a bunch more gold. 100 shoveler. Blah, 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 blah. Welcome to your new home, dirt. It's a treasure. Oh, it's a treasure of a Prospector past. Someone was out here drinking whatever this is. It actually looks kind of new. Beer, Gadsy! Beer! 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 I don't like beer. I'm a whiskey drinker because, like, let's face it, beer, whiskey and bread are all exactly the same, except someone mucked up beer. It's disgusting. Every beer could have been a good whiskey. Then they added hops in it and didn't distill it. Or a cob loaf. Sometimes it's worth revisiting spots. Other times you remember why you walked away from them. This is hard prospecting for not a lot of gold. Good tin though, that's the confusing part. Every single one of the shovels has been dumped in at this point, meaning that most of the heavies will be spread out between here and here. And it's just sort of my job now to push on all the large gravels so that we're just left with the dirt. You would do this in traditional sluice boxes too. Massaging it helps sink everything down into the mats. In this case, we just want it to sink a little bit lower and shed off those heavies, the heavy round rocks. Then we're going to dismantle our really basic sluice setup by shifting our rocks over, relieving some of that velocity, allowing more water through, and we should be able to just collect our cons now. I'm fairly confident that tomorrow I'm going to have to go out and go somewhere else, somewhere I haven't been before, and try and find something a little better than 5 specks a pan. Yeah. Shoveling into the flow is never a good idea. Let's do that. Right, the idea here is that the river has washed away a lot of the lights, and now we're left with more of the heavy sands. So I've basically sluiced. It's not as efficient as like an actual store-bought sluice, obviously, but it's what the old timers used to do, and it does work. Works really well. What we should see in this is more black sand than what we're getting from just a single pan, and that is what I'm starting to see. There's a whole bunch of black sand coating the top of these cons right now, and the gold will be sitting amongst it. That should kind of give you an idea of how this works. We have got nowhere near close to what I was getting down to earlier and seeing the black sand, and I've got probably 1/3 of a pan full. So we have concentrated all the heavies in that spot. The question is, do we concentrate the gold with it? Way more black sand, holy crap. And look at the tourmaline. Look at the size of those bits of tourmaline. 2 of them. Oh, that's real nice. That's cool. Well, a little bit more. Well, the ground sluice certainly helped a little bit, but probably not as much as I'm going to need it to help. God damn! Stick with me. There's going to be more gold in the future, I promise, Gadsy.
Oh, you got black sand.
How much did you get?
Handful of material.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's the best pan we've seen all day.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Look at that bit.
Bonanza City.
There's a nugget there. Huge nugget.
Massive nug. It's pretty cool that you can actually see all the black sand sitting in it when you just scoop it up out of a sluice like that. Small things that Chris enjoys. Like Oprah, but way poorer. That is ridiculous. That is all chunky coarse tin. All over the back of the pan already. That's why it was so heavy. Gadsy, you think you've got some tin?
Oh my god. Alright, you found the good stuff.
I found a tin deposit, mate. Gadsy's over there just getting some sweet crevice gold, and I'm over here in Tin City. Still getting gold. It's all through it. Very fine. This is why we did it, because I'm 2 pans in. I'm seeing a lot more gold than what I was getting when I was just doing it pan by pan out of that spot. Pan by pan is great when you are on a spot that's giving you 50 or 60 flakes per pan. When you're on a spot like this where it's giving you 5 or 10, concentration. Put it in the fast water, let it concentrate. You'll come out with more gold at the end of the day because it's less work. There are a great many number of sandwiches you could choose to eat on the creek. At the moment, I'm going through a period where I'm sort of religiously eating ham and cheese. It's so basic, but so delicious. What's your favourite creek sanger? Sanger is Australian for sandwich. Sandwich or sandwich? Widge or widge? Ham and cheese and bread. That's pretty good. Gadsy's showing me a rock he found. I've never seen anything like that before. What is that? Internet people, what is Gadsy's rock? Today started off rough, but it's starting to look up just a little bit. I'm now starting to get better sized specks and more of them in less dirt. I'm going to use the same sluice box method because it's still not quite good enough to just hand pan it. Wide, deeper water being channeled into a narrower, shallower area. That is our sluice box right there. We're going to dump dirt about here. It'll concentrate it through here. When we want to clean it out, We'll pull these rocks out, it will drop the water velocity, and we'll be able to collect our cons. This is just humdinging along. You can kind of almost trace it because you can now see how the gravel is moving. This is called traction. It's where the gravels skip along the bottom. So you can see that we've got agitation and movement within the light gravels, and that comes down into the fast water, and we should be concentrating in this section just here. This is working like an eddy, an inside bend, so you can see the difference in the size of the material that's falling out here compared to the size of the material that's falling out here. Our gold is going to be mostly here and running through this section. That is now a very deep hole, and we've made significant contributions to creek erosion by taking that dirt out and putting it right here. We've got a lot of movement within that soil. I'm pretty sure those are 2 pieces of tourmaline just sitting there. Let's see if we can grab it. Oh, that flow is so fast. Yeah. Yep, piece of tourmaline. This pan comes right off the bedrock at the very bottom, where there's a little crevice. Now, it's probably been worked by a lot of people because it's a really obvious spot. The gravel that's there now wasn't there that long ago, so it's probably been exposed before. But if there is decent gold, it's going to be down in that crevice, so this should give us an idea. Yeah, that's probably one of the better pans I've got today. That is still no Bonanza City, but it wasn't quite a full pan, a lot of loose gravel. I reckon what we've got going on in the creek sluice here will be good. Reduce water velocity. There we go. And we're now moving on some of the lights that were accumulating there, which is good. It'll again reconcentrate everything to this area. This weighs probably about 16 packets worth of 45 ammo. Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a bit of 45 ammo.
I've gone away from the potato pan because even with a chair, that motherfucker's heavy. Just a little bit of black sand, a little bit of tin, mate. A little bit. That's a reasonable amount of tin for 1 pan's worth of dirt, and you can see how that reconcentration works. It just helps you get rid of everything you don't need in your pan and keep a lot of what you do. There is some gold in there, like a lot of very fine stuff all through the top. You can never tell in that amount of tin, ever. You gotta take it home and run it through a cleanup sluice. Every pan I'm taking out of my little river sluice there is giving me some good sized flakes. That's actually a pretty decent piece of gold, that. And I'm happy with its friends. A lot of friends. I think this will still add up to be okay. Probably not for my hours, but it'll still add up to be a good weight. And it's just before 4 o'clock, meaning that I put in about 3 hours of work, which means I need to make about 75 bucks worth of gold. 3/4 of a gram. I don't actually know if that's possible today. I don't think it is. We'll find out though, because the black sand's real thick. I gotta make $75 redos to make minimum wage for the hours that I put in. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I need a little over half a gram to make that $75, and I don't think that's half a gram, but it doesn't look terrible. Using 1800s gold techniques certainly help increase my recovery, but we're not where we really need to be. I hope it gets better tomorrow. So let's get on the scales and see how many dollary-doos we earn. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can pick up some merch or pay dirt where you can learn how to pan for gold at home in the description below. And make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube be unsubscribing people without their permissions. That way you won't miss any more debauchery like this. Doesn't that just look pretty? You can get these little weigh up trays from Prince by Penny. I'll leave his stuff linked in the description below. But we're going to use a cut-off spoon head. I'm hoping that there's half a gram in here. It looks close. It might be a 0.3 or a 0.4. .2, 0.24. Okay, we're halfway. Maybe. Come on, baby. 0.3. Oh, 0.398. At the time of recording, 0.398 is worth about $47. $25 short. That's not great, but hey, for a day prospecting in a smash spot, at least I got some gold. Now I've got about 35 hours to go to try and make up that deficit.